I tell you what, gang, there's arriving at somewhere fashionably late, and I like to arrive fashionably late. So half an hour ago, I just tested positive for COVID. Yay, that's fantastic. And all the damn stupid things to happen. Anyway, there we are. So I feel fine, apart from I feel like I've been hit by the Flying Scotsman train at full speed going up to Edinburgh. You know him. You love him. Thank God he's here today. Neil Lowell.
Happy to help. Yes, I had my COVID experience a while ago. It was, if you have the same version as me, it was absolutely nothing when I had it. If everyone had it like I did, we wouldn't even worry about it. It was like
right. Walk us through your symptoms. I'm interested.
Nothing.
Boredom. Like death warmed up.
Boredom. That I had to isolate. Yeah, literally, it was like the mildest cold.
Oh, this isn't. This isn't. Well, you can hear from my throat, which is like I've swallowed. It feels like I've swallowed razor blades.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, it's just I felt crap for 3 days. And yesterday I tested negative, so I thought, well, maybe I'm just tired or something, you know? And then, whoa, not
sorry
good.
to hear that.
Let's go and say hello to everybody. The lovely Linda.
Well, I'm happy to jump in with the talking. Hi, Russ, says Linda Dave.
Bless her. Bless.
Afternoon, and 7 kisses from Emma Webb.
That's a lot of kisses.
That's a lot of kisses. RVB, greetings.
RVB, there we go. And we have Facebook user, which means they're watching on the espresso bar, which you absolutely can do. Afternoon, Mr. Kane. And hello, chaps, he says.
Big up East Croydon.
And Dave Sleep, greetings, one and all, and greetings to you. And let's dash across, shall we? And please read it out from Manhattan, USA. Oh, hang on, press the wrong one, wasn't it?
Good morning.
Good morning, says Elizabeth. You're very quiet, Neil, I have to say. I don't know why. It is horribly, horribly quiet. Diane Taylor, hello, guys. Speedy recovery, Russ. Oh, yeah. Thank you very, very much indeed. Francine, that's my cousin, bless her, who sends, she's the queen of emojis. So there we go. And then I think we're going to Kentucky. Seriously. Good morning, says Mary G. Williams, who sounds like a country and western singer.
Indeed.
Paul Claridge, if you care to read it.
Good afternoon, gang, says Paul. Hope you feel better soon, Russ. Can you hear me any better now?
Me too. Thank you. I'm annoyed because I have been so, anyone who knows me knows I've been so super careful. You know, to the point of people getting cross with me. And I've escaped it for like 2.5 years or 2 years plus, whatever the hell it is. And there you go. I don't know what it was. I think it was the tube train. The tube train the other day.
Most likely.
The tube train the other day was bloody heaving. And if it wasn't for Sadiq Khan and his stupid £15, and then the parking, I always try and drive because I really avoided trying to get the germs. And blow me down. What the hell? And it was way too crowded. I was going in for a business meeting on a Friday with somebody. It was like Thursday or Friday, and it was somebody that I'd been trying to get together with for like 2 years plus. And he'd come up from miles away. What do we got? Emma Webb, you sound a bit like Barry White. Blimey, get what I know. Yeah, it is absolutely as painful as it sounds. And then we got Linda Dave. Oh no, Russ, I'm sorry, get better soon. Yeah. And then Richard Vero. Guess where Richard Vero? Oh yeah. Good morning from Berlin. I was at school, Neil, with Richard. I was at school with him, and he lives, of all places, in Colditz. You couldn't make it up. Colditz. Yeah, like in Colditz Castle.
Wow.
Chrissy Richards is watching us in Spain. I wouldn't mind. This is
Hi, Mr. Croaky. Get well soon. I've plucked up courage, booked flight to UK for my sister's 70th in September. Good for you, Chrissy.
That's very, very good. Are you not using a microphone today?
I'm doing what I normally do. Would you like me to call my technical man?
You can do, but I'm any second going to introduce him. We've got to be very quick because he's got to be in. Oh, he's gone. I hope he's coming back. I'm very excited about this. This is somebody I've wanted on the show since we started Men's Radio Station. I'm really hoping he's going to come back. It is Professor Green, Stephen.
Wow.
And I'm very, very excited. He can only be with us. His schedule today is insane. So he can only be with us. We're going to let him go at like 14 minutes past 12. So I hope Prof Green comes back. And Robert Van Buren says, I can hear you okay, Neil. Stop crawling, Robert. Stop crawling. Stop it. It's annoying.
Oh, my technical man is here, so as soon as he comes in the room, I'm going to get him to have a fiddle.
And Diane Taylor says, I can hear Neil okay. Oh, well, that's good. If everyone can hear, I'm just worried about you. I'm not worried about me. I just want you to enjoy the show.
Okay, here he comes. I'm a bit quiet today.
As best you can.
Have a fiddle.
Right, here he is. I'm so excited. And I got to be straight. Let's get straight on it.
Let's go. How are you doing?
Stephen,
easy.
Lovely to see you.
Lovely to
Professor
see you. How
Green,
are you?
good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Neil or Longie? What do you prefer?
You can call me either. I don't mind at all.
Sweet. All right. I mean, neither are offensive. Not as bad as some of the things my nan calls me.
How are you, Stephen? That's the most important thing. How are you doing?
I'm good. I hope you guys are well too.
Yeah. Well, I just half an hour ago bizarrely tested positive for COVID.
For COVID, you're joking. I was going to say that as a joke when you went. I was going to go tested positive for COVID.
Yes,
no way.
Exactly right.
Oh mate,
it's exactly. Well, you look very.
It looks good on you. COVID looks good on you, Russ.
I know. I look great. I look great. I'm going to be the best looking corpse in anywhere.
Oh God,
it's weird,
God no, please don't.
It's a weird thing. Anyway, you're not here to talk about my silly old health problems. What's going on? Because what you're talking about is really important, and I'm thrilled you're on Men's Radio Station. It's been a dream of mine since we started.
Yeah, welcome. I'm a big fan.
You.
Let's get that out of the way.
Cheers. Thank you. Well, I think your radio station is great. I think the purpose is brilliant. And the reason I've partnered with British Gas to highlight the British Gas Energy Trust and the support that it provides for people struggling with the rising cost of living and who may be worrying about or suffering with energy debt is it ties into my mental health advocacy because debt impacts mental health. It goes without saying, but not really, because people need to hear it. It really does. And as ever, the people who need support the most are generally the people who have the least and who are impacted the worst by such things. And that's a situation we find ourselves in with increasing numbers, frighteningly increasing numbers of people finding themselves suffering from debt or energy debt specifically for the first time. Ever-growing numbers, which is frightening. And over a third of those people, and these, I might drop a couple of statistics, but let's focus on the people behind the statistics. Over a third of people are suffering in silence because they're scared for one reason or another to tell their loved ones about what's going on and to look for support. 61% of people don't even know that support is out there, and it is.
Goodness me.
Yeah.
It's very scary, though, isn't it, Stephen? It really is really scary, this situation we're facing.
It really is. And for me, it's close to my heart because I was brought up come from a low-income background. I was brought up by my grandmother. She brought me up, she raised me and looked after her mother, my great-grandmother, Nanny Edie, at a time when she should have been starting a new life for herself. Energy debt wasn't a phrase that was coined at that point back in the 1980s. Yes, I am that old. I know I don't look it. But it wasn't.
Well.
I like it. And yeah, energy debt wasn't a phrase that was coined, and it was just debt. And I saw what my nan went through in order to provide for us. And sometimes that was, what do we put on the electric and what do we put on the gas? So I've witnessed what stress that causes in a household. Ending up on the emergency and prepay and then having to pay a premium to prepay, which means that even though you're suffering all the negative effects of poverty, you're penalized for it. It's you're almost penalized for being poor.
Yeah, there's something I've always wanted to say to you, and I know I've only got a few minutes with you, but do you realize the enormous positive impact you personally have had on the mental health advocacy, because you've been so brave over the years?
Yeah, I'd like to ask you a little bit more about that, actually.
It's so admirable.
Thank you. Reluctantly, yes. I'm getting to a point now where I'm learning to take compliments. So yes, the therapy is working, and yes, I'm beginning to realize that I've had a positive impact, which is great for all the negative impact that it's had on mine. But that's just the truth of it. I spent a long time researching things and uncovering things and digging into things to better understand them. Things that I'd seen growing up, either experienced or saw secondhand. That people I knew were going through. And it did for a period. It made me quite unhappy because I was living the lives of, living in the shoes of others, and their lives weren't pink and fluffy and happy. They were. There were some quite harrowing situations that I found myself in and saw people going through and living in and amongst. And when I left for the day, it wasn't, like when the cameras went turned off, their situation changed, or when those films went out, everything improved. Those films are probably the documentaries that I made, probably more relevant now than they were then to problems that people are experiencing, because things seem to have gotten a little bit worse, thanks to
and
the
yet
last
so
few years.
few know that support is out there.
Exactly.
That's the first thing that springs to mind. And the second thing that springs to mind is, it can't be beyond the wit of man to make sure that everyone has the basics that they need. And I don't understand why we keep repeating. Human beings seem to veer from one crisis to another. If it's not a pandemic, it's war. If it's not war, it's this. It's energy. It's just how can we break this cycle?
By doing just that, but it's difficult because that becomes a solo challenge for each and every person independently.
It's more that we can do what we can with our skill set, I think. But what I find is when
that's
people
not something
collaborate,
sorry.
Not at all.
No, I was going to say it's quite difficult because people are not often encouraged to focus on their skill set. We could talk about the education system now for a little while, couldn't we? But let's not. But we're not really, and I think education plays a big part in energy debt, really. And that's the great thing about this charitable trust is that they provide support that is practical as well as financial, both, in fact, if you need it. But money management is not something that I was ever good at, because for the larger portion of my life I didn't have money. So when I did have it, I couldn't get a mortgage immediately. Mortgages were incredibly hard to get. No more 10% mortgages for everyone flying around. They were really difficult to get. And I didn't have accounts for I didn't have 3 years of accounts. So I didn't do the smart thing and save my money for 3 years, because I'm earning money. Surely that's always going to happen, right? Bad money management. Had I have been more frugal, I'd be in a better situation now. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. I can't say that on the radio. I was going to say if your aunt had a pair of, she'd be your uncle. But
no, you can say whatever you like on this. Whatever you like to say on this show.
But you know what I mean? It's important that people find their way to that education, because actually learning to keep your energy costs down and to better manage your money is going to have a knock-on effect, because that's information that you'll be able to provide to your children or your friends or people that you encounter that need the same help. Education is important.
And I'm not surprised that a whole slew of us are in ignorance, because I was never taught this at school, and I went to a posh school, but we were never taught money management. I look back and think, given what my parents paid to educate me privately, I wasn't really taught anything that much that would benefit me in practical sense.
I mean, Stephen, have you ever used algebra or trigonometry or any of ever? No.
Well, I mean, I went from being offered the chance to sit the entry exam to St. Paul's to being in a pupil referral unit by 13. So from 11 to 13, they were quite transitional years for me. But even at 11, I said, "Nan, I don't want to go there. I'm not sitting that exam." And I was incredibly bright as a kid, but I felt like I knew my place in the world even at that point. And having met children that went to St. Paul's, I actually think I was right, and I wouldn't have survived because they were far too comfortable in their own skin, whereas I was not. And I had all of everything that came from being from Hackney. I didn't feel like I had much purpose. I hadn't found the creative bone in my body, which I did when I started rapping when I was 18. I couldn't draw, couldn't paint, still can't sing. Some would argue I can't rap, but I believe I can, and there are a few people that agree. So
I think you can.
That changed everything.
You can rap, fella.
Yeah, but that changed, that changed everything for me. I had a form of expression, but at that point in my life, I wasn't as, and I used to think that people were like quirky or weird, middle to upper class, anyone that I encountered, because they weren't. They just didn't have, like, I had to be Hackney. That was my identity because I didn't have another one.
Exactly.
For a period of my life.
Identity, and people have got these identities, but then it can become a prison because
completely, because then you're confined by the confines of that identity
of the belief system.
Exactly.
Which happens to stand for BS, which I find quite interesting because everyone's worth more. Can I very quickly ask you what you do? I mean, you're a fantastic mental health advocate now. What do you do for your own self-care and well-being? How do you keep yourself in balance?
Not enough. And that's true. That's true sometimes, especially of late. It's really easy to let what you do for yourself go by the wayside. So I think the most important thing really is self-awareness and being aware of where you're at and catching it before you end up in a sticky situation because you've made too many bad decisions.
And we're not taught that either.
No, we're not, because they don't. I mean, listen, I've gone into schools, and it's encouraging. I'm slightly more optimistic than I was prior to all the school visits that I've done, because kids talk about mental health. I didn't.
Yes.
It wasn't mental
even
and
in the
health.
lexicon,
It wasn't.
was it?
Nah, not at all.
But I've got friends in their 20s who do use these words, which I didn't when I was in my 20s. The perception when I was in school age was mental health. It was just basically a crapshoot. You either were lucky or you were unlucky, and you either had good mental health or you could almost catch bad mental health. And that was almost the belief system, the BS. But a lot of them now are using language which implies that there is this thing called mental health, and they can have some authorship and control over it by learning various things.
I mean, you think about something like psychosis, which a lot of people encounter at some point in their life for one reason or another. Drug-induced psychosis is just that. There is no such thing as drug psychosis, but drug-induced psychosis, it can be brought about in people more perceptible to it. So more prone to it. Sorry. And it's important to understand that that's a symptom. That's not a diagnosis. So an episode of psychosis is not you're suffering from, but it's not. It's a symptom of something. Psychosis. It's not a diagnosis. It's important to.
I've been under strict instructions that you have to dash off at 12:15. It's now 12:16, and I do.
I could talk to you guys forever.
Oh, please, will you come back on the show?
I'd love to. Yeah, definitely.
I will talk mental health advocacy with you until the cows come home.
I would love to.
Fantastic.
I would love to.
Stephen, it's an absolute pleasure to see you again. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, it's a privilege. Lovely to meet you, Stephen.
God bless.
Love to see you. Love to meet you. Bye.
You know why I love that guy? I tell you why I love that guy. On Facebook alone, he has 1.6 million followers. That's just on Facebook. 1.6 million followers. And he's so modest and charming, and wow, what a lovely guy.
And the other thing with mental health is the same with our physical health model, that we treat the symptoms, we don't go back to the cause. Because if you could remove the cause, there wouldn't be any symptoms to treat. It seems a battle against symptoms rather than a focus on
Hey, nearly
causing mental health. We're fighting mental illness rather than trying to cause mental health.
As I now become Lee Marvin, thanks to razor blades in my throat, would you be so sweet as to go through the comments, because there's some fantastic comments.
I would be delighted.
Ready
Stick them on the screen, and I'm all yours. Okay.
I'll pop them up, and you can read them, because I'm never going to get through otherwise.
John Yates, I'm a scout leader, and a lot of kids talk about it at school, which is great. This is what I'm saying. There's now this phrase, my mental health. It's not something that happens to me. It's something that happens with me. And that seems to be the key difference. One of my friends in their 20s uses that phrase a lot, and it's not a victim mindset. She's an element of responsibility in a good way. Diane Taylor, the use of disability aids at home run by electricity is an added worry for lots of people, which the government have not addressed. My disabled daughter has aids at night, but others have much more to deal with, like hoists and chargers, etc. And those machines can't be turned off. Well, yes.
Oh my God.
Absolutely. Thank you, Diane.
About that. I hadn't thought about that.
No, I hadn't. It's more nuanced than we think, isn't it?
Coming in from New York, Manhattan, no people skills taught in my school, I bet you. And happy birthday, Rosemary. I happen to know it's your birthday. He's so
happy birthday, Rosemary.
To listen to. Yeah, I have similar worries. Get well soon. Thank you very, very much indeed. I'm going to introduce our next. There's loads more comments, but I can't keep our next guest waiting. Here he is. Hello. How are you?
I'm very well, Russ. How are you two? Hi, Neil.
Richard, good afternoon. How you doing?
I'm good.
Neil, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Welcome. And as you can probably hear, half an hour ago, I just tested, after 2.5 years of avoiding it, tested positive for COVID. So I'm really annoyed. I'm so annoyed.
That happened to me 3 weeks ago. Myself and my wife had avoided COVID for the whole 2 year.
Yeah.
And literally a week before, we said, you know what, we'd be really annoyed if we got it now. And we got it a week later.
Did you get it badly, or was it the super mild version that I had?
I think I just went to sleep for 3 days. So it was quite good, actually.
I didn't even do that. I was just
Richard,
bored. I was like a grounded teenager stomping around the house. I want to go out, and it's so unfair, but I didn't feel remotely ill.
Child.
No, my wife was completely asymptomatic, but I was a man, so I was in bed.
Yeah, well, I thought
you
it was
saw the
man
white light.
flu.
The angels came. Yes.
Yeah.
I thought it was man flu. I put it down to London transport, and I'll tell you what else. And call me crazy or whatever, but on the blooming tube, I'm double masked. I'm really, really careful, and everybody else isn't. And they were in your face. And I had a business meeting, and I had to use a tube. There we go. Right, Richard, tell us all about yourself and why you are here.
Please.
Well, thanks for inviting me on again. We've done this.
Absolutely our pleasure,
haven't we? So, just for listeners listening, I'm the director of wellbeing for a company called Westfield Health.
Oh.
And Westfield Health provide wellbeing solutions primarily to employers. So people that are listening, your employers can support you with your mental and physical health, and it's us that then provide those solutions for you. So I'm here to speak on, we're talking about sleep and this research that hit the papers last Friday, yeah?
This is a big one for me because I can get to sleep. Do you know, I could fall asleep now easily, no offense, but I can fall asleep anywhere.
The thing is, Richard, you wouldn't know, both Neil and I worked for years with Paul McKenna. So it's a sort of running gag with us that we do that all these years later.
But the importance of sleep, I've read some research on this, and you're absolutely right to be focused on it, Richard, because, I mean, lack of sleep can lead to dementia, cancer. I mean, it's so key. It's so foundational in our well-being, right?
It is indeed. And you know what? It's probably the one thing that's most overlooked by the three of us, everyone listening today. You know, if you've got a busy day, what do? You go to bed an hour later or you get up an hour earlier. But that sleep is so essential for maintaining not just your physical health, but just as importantly as you're talking earlier, your mental health.
And weight as well.
All sorts of things that it affects, yeah. So it's one of the, if you like, pillars of good health. So, you know, if you can look after your nutrition, you can get a bit more exercise, you can sleep well, then actually you've just about got it covered. But they're all big challenges in themselves, aren't they?
I was so pleased you were coming on, Richard, again, because I sleep very badly. Shocking. And it doesn't help. I know that.
I know.
Why is it, as human beings, the things that we all do, that we've done since human beings have existed, we find so difficult? Sleeping, eating. Why? What's that about?
It's interesting, isn't it? And I think for a lot of us, it's modern living. I mean, if we only go back, 100, 150 years ago, most of us, our days were really regimented and routined. We actually worked in the fields, we worked in the factories, so we had to be up at a certain time. We were physically active through the day. We ate reasonably well because there was only certain foods available. And of course, you then slept well because you'd had a very physically active day.
But we were more in harmony with the natural order of things. It's so unnatural now, what we try and live, and then we wonder why we burn out and have things like that.
Go on. Sorry.
What kind of solutions do you provide?
So if we're looking at the things that we can all do, what was really interesting, you just finished on with the last speaker, was talking about symptoms and cause. Yeah. So if you're sleeping badly, it's often a symptom of something else. So poor sleep is really a manifestation of other things that are going on in your life. And quite commonly, sleep's related to anxiety, worry, those types of concerns. And I'm sure everybody can recognize that. It might be linked to a physical condition. So if, like me, you suffer from a bad back occasionally, that then disrupts your sleep. So quite often it's other things that are happening in your life, physical or mental, that are the underlying causes of poor sleep. However, for a lot of us, there's a lots we can do to adapt to those issues and to create the best possible conditions for sleep. Yeah. So if you like 5 top tips for getting good sleep, and I can go into any of these in a bit more detail for you if you want, is 1, needs a regular sleep routine. 2, time to unwind before lights out. 3, switch off all devices, particularly blue screen related, about 30 minutes before lights out. Bedroom environment's really important.
Well, I heard the only 2 things, according to current wisdom, that you should use your bedroom for are sleep and sex. No TV, no eating.
Absolutely. And the problem is most of us have got a TV at the end of the bed, haven't we? Or we're on our phones. Now, one of the problems with screens is certain screens, listeners may be aware, your mobile phone is a perfect example, your iPad. They emit a blue light. And that blue light disrupts the brain from releasing a hormone called melatonin.
Melatonin, yep.
Melatonin is a natural occurring thing. It's triggered when the light starts to fade, and it's sleep inducing. So it helps you to go to sleep. So if you're using screens, devices that emit blue light, the danger is it disrupts the melatonin, and that stops that natural sleep inducing piece that comes from, you're talking about routine before. So back in the day, before we had light bulbs, that type of thing, as the dark came and the end of the day, that would trigger melatonin. And as the light came up, that would trigger adrenaline to wake you back up. So in the summer, we slept for quite a short period of time because we needed to spend most of the day sort of collecting food, harvest, etc.
Yeah, killing the buffalo.
Yeah, in the winter, we went into basic semi-hibernation.
Mm-hmm.
We slept for 12 hours, but that's the natural order of things that modern living.
And we are so disconnected from the natural order, aren't we?
We are.
I see melatonin in the natural shops, the health food shops, as a supplement. Does it work to take it? Because I also read about supplements. If you take it, your body doesn't make it. I heard that about testosterone, for example. Men take testosterone supplements.
Yeah,
but that only work. It's only a temporary solution at best, because the body will go, oh, well, I've got enough, so I won't make it anymore.
Yeah, that's a general health thought process that can happen. I'm not a specialist in that area, so it's difficult for me to comment, to be honest. But going back to this natural order of things, one of the if you like, the top tip for good sleep is to get a proper regular sleep routine, because that brings you back into that sort of natural order, even if it's an adapted order. So the idea there is, and listeners, if you try this for a 7-day period and see how you feel at the end of the 7 days, just take it as a challenge. So basically what you do is you go to bed and you wake up at roughly the same time each day. So that's, if you like, within 30 minutes. And what that does is your body, and particularly your brain, we're wired to like consistency and pattern and routine in our life. So a bit like you were just saying, Neil, if you're going to bed and waking up at roughly the same time, your actual body and brain are saying, you know what, I'm getting enough sleep because I'm going to bed at the same time, I'm waking up at the same time. Hey, I'm okay, I've recharged properly. The difficulty comes when you keep switching it all the time, and the body never knows where it is and whether it's enough. Now, by doing that, you can also, what your body will naturally do is get used to the fact that, for example, it's 11 o'clock. This is the time we usually go to sleep, and it'll start producing the melatonin before that in preparation. And the same for wake up. So you create your own natural order that you were talking about before, Neil. Your own way of working.
Loads of things that you've mentioned there, Richard.
Sleep hygiene is the buzzword.
Number one is when I go to the States, I always get melatonin. You can just buy it over the counter, like you could get Nurofen or something. It's easy. So that helps with the jet lag. And all my glasses, because I'm staring at a screen like we all do, but writing books and stuff, they're all blue tinted. Everything I have is blue tinted deliberately because that really helps. I don't get watery eyes, and you know that thing when your eyes are pouring because you've been staring at the screen. So many, boy, you're a great guest because there's so many comments coming in now. And again, I
Dave
apologize.
Sleet says restoring balance is the core of well-being.
Yeah.
Restoring balance is the core of well-being.
And can I just add to that, because it's a great point, Dave. Everybody's balance is different. So there's no one way of doing this. You know, from a sleep perspective, some of us will be referred to as owls and larks. So we have a natural body rhythm where some of us prefer to go to bed late, get up late. Others prefer to go to bed early and wake up early. So it's finding your natural rhythm. And then by following that natural rhythm, you start to restore your own individual balance. But there isn't one way that's right. It's what's right for you as an individual.
Yeah.
You can see it's a big issue because so many people coming. This is Sue Sleet is up in Fife in Scotland. I always sleep 4 hours, then I wake up, but fall back to sleep after a couple of hours for another 2 to 3 hours. Yeah, I get broken sleep the whole time.
So what can you do about broken sleep? Would it be the same advice?
Let's dash across to New York State, USA. Asa says, as a psychologist, I've always recommended that people avoid using devices in the bedroom.
Perfect. That's great advice. But the broken sleep piece is a common, it's one of the manifestations of poor sleep. You know, when we look at poor sleep, it's basically you can't fall asleep to start with. You find difficulty waking up. You have disturbed sleep, or you wake up early and can't get back to sleep again. They're the sort of 4 general patterns. And all of them, we all have, I think the one thing we all have to do is accept, because of and this is where the link to mental health comes in as well. Because of everything going on in our lives, we all will have disrupted sleep at some point in time. Yeah. It's then just a case of how you accept and adapt that. So broken sleep is often caused by other things that are going on in your head. That happens to me. For me, the worst thing, if I wake up during the night, I'll then just try and relax as best I can. Perhaps some sort of gentle breathing exercises. Ooh. Almost treat it as, you know what, I'm just having a nice rest. And
that's good.
And get that mindset. Now, if it goes on past 20 minutes is my target, then, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm actually enjoying this rest, I'll continue. Or if I'm concerned that I'm not going back to sleep again, you know what, break that routine. I'll get up, go downstairs, might have a glass of water, may even a cup of tea, I shouldn't say that, and almost have that forced break, have a little look at the paper or book, not the device. And then 30 minutes later, just go back to bed as if I'm going back to bed again. So it's a lot of it is about how do you adapt to best deal with the situation rather than lie there beating the pillow, feeling really frustrated and worrying about how you're going to feel the next morning.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you this because it's a huge issue for so many people. And we've had it as a theme, in the past, which is, of course, catastrophizing. You sit there, it's 3 a.m, it's 4 a.m, and you're running through your Rolodex of every crap thing you've ever done. Every terrible mistake you've ever done, every shocking relationship you should never have got. It doesn't really matter. Business, personal, it doesn't matter. And you really don't need that. And that keeps me awake. It's diabolical. I loathe it.
I think going back to what your last speaker finished on, this idea of self-awareness. First of all, you have to recognize you're having that reaction in order to do something about it. Yeah. So it's quickly recognizing that and then breaking the cycle. So then doing something that actually disrupts you in terms of distracting you from those thoughts. So for me, it's get up, go downstairs, make a cup of tea, do something different. If I'm wide awake, it might be just switch on the bedside light, try and read. Reading's really good.
Yeah.
Because in focusing on what you're reading on, you actually block out all those thoughts you've been having. So it just distracts you and it allows the mind just that little bit of rest from your worries and catastrophizing. That's a great word. I like that phrase.
It is. Yeah, they use it in CBT.
Settle down and feel sleepy and go back to sleep again. So it's how you disrupt that.
Do you find mindfulness helps?
Really, for some people, yeah. I mean, all different things are for different people. I'm not brilliant at mindfulness. I don't think I've got the discipline to do it.
Well, apparently, you don't need it. It's not. A brilliant mindfulness teacher once said, "You don't meditate to get good at meditation. You meditate to get good at life." But obviously, it's really worked. Yeah. It's really worked for her. But it does give you some kind of distance. You become the observer of your thoughts, not so you can see the forest for the trees, if you like. If you get from that detached enough perspective, I guess.
Yeah, I like John's comment. I like John's comment here. Because we're very upfront here on MRS. If I go back to sleep, I feel like crap afterwards. I know there's nothing worse. You wake up and you think, oh, for God's sake, I'm tireder now than I was last night, and I got like a full day ahead of me. It's very
for me, I can be
annoying.
Just asleep. I can just wake up for a couple of minutes, not even that, but because it's disturbed, I feel tired the next day. And then when I'm supposed to be getting up for work about 6:15, then I suddenly go into that deep sleep, and it's really hard to get up. And
it's interesting because when what I'll do is if I woke up say at about 5 o'clock in the morning, and usually you wake up, it's an early waking, you feel quite alert. Quite often I'll just get up and say, right, this is start my day. Because I know, like you're saying there, Neil, if I go back to sleep for another half hour, an hour, I wake up feeling even worse. And that's interesting because it links back to this research that came out last Friday, which was talking about what's the optimum amount of sleep for good health, both physical and mental. And the research is indicating the optimum, so that's the sweet spot, if you like, is 7 hours. Now, I've found, and I'm sure listeners will relate to this, sometimes you have a long lie-in on a Saturday morning. You wait, I know, Russ, you never do.
No.
But you wake up feeling really, really groggy. You can't get started again. Yeah. So there is a thing, it doesn't sound right, but you can sleep for too much time.
You can.
Oh, that's true.
And again, likewise, that has a negative effect on, if you like, your day-to-day performance, as it does not sleeping enough. And so it's just finding that right balance. And the one thing, this piece of research said the optimum length of sleep was 7 hours. We know people quote 6 to 8, 7 to 9, that type of thing. Again, we have to recognize we are all individual, and we naturally all require different amounts of sleep. So again, it comes back to that self-awareness piece. How much sleep do you need to have what you feel is good quality sleep? Yeah, so that you awake at your optimum rather than sleeping too
quality
much.
Over quantity.
Oh, cool. Richard, let me ask you this. I've got a new situation on Talk TV as well. Now that show in the studio, it's television, so I have to be there at 3 a.m. like 5 a.m. That kills me the next day. Maybe if I was 25, it would be okay.
Yeah.
You think, wait a minute, I've got to leave at about 2. If I go to bed, I'm going to sleep right through. I'm going to have 27 alarm clocks or something. So I kind of semi-stay up.
Yeah.
And then I do the show, which is fine because Dr. Theatre comes on and you feel great. Then I get home, but my sleep pattern obviously now is completely out the window.
Yeah.
I have no idea how to get around that because I love doing it, but there are consequences.
What you need, we do a lot of work at Westfield Health with employers with their shift workers in terms of looking at how you can best manage your sleep and your nutrition actually when you're working shifts. And everybody automatically assumes working the night shift is the worst shift. But a lot of shift workers will report if they're on really early morning shifts and they've got a long commute into work, that's the hardest one of all. And actually that falls into part of the sort of biorhythm of your natural 24-hour cycle, is that part of the trick of when you're sleeping through the night, your body temperature will fall to help keep you asleep. And your body temperature is at its lowest and you're at your deepest sleep at 4 o'clock in the morning on a natural day. So that's the hardest. If you're waking up at 4, which I know you're waking up even earlier, but if you're waking up at 4 to get to work for 6, that's the toughest thing to do. One of the things we have to do with shift workers is look at how they adapt their routines, going back to this routine piece. So you get that regularity for when you're on shift, and then what you do on your transition days before you move to the next shift. The real difficulty for people like you, Russ, is if you don't have that regular pattern, and it comes back to what Neil was saying before, happening on a regular basis, week by week, then it becomes much more difficult. So if you suddenly get called in to do a show where you've got to be up at 2 one morning a week, but the rest of the week you're operating on other levels, that's when you start, your sleep patterns go all over the place.
That's exactly what's happened. I mean, and Richard, of course, my sleep was never great, but this is just exacerbated.
So you might have some lifestyle or career choices to make, Russ.
Yeah, well, there you go. We can only do what we can do. If I could be a brain surgeon, I would have done it, Richard. But trust me, it wasn't going to happen.
It's looking at how you adapt your routine pre and post that session to then set yourself up for the next day's activity. And if you've got these different shifts, shall we say, happening during the week, how do you build your sleep patterns through the week so you replicate that week on week, so you've got as close to a regular form of sleep as you possibly can get? It's never going to be ideal when you've got a situation like yours where you're all over the place. But there are things you can do just to try and adapt. And then look at afterwards.
You've got to be on your best. You've got to be on your A game. You know, I can't wander into a TV studio and go, "Oh, hi, everybody." You know, you've got to be boom, right? Well, I'm not now because of the blooming COVID thing, but, you know, you've got to be really on it. So you're psyched up.
Yeah.
That's what you do. Your adrenaline's going, whether you realize it or not. And then you've got to detune, which, of course, is never easy.
No. And that uses a huge amount of energy, doesn't it, when you've got to psych up and you don't realize it. So maybe one of the things you need to look at, Russ, there is what you do afterwards. So how do you sort of detune, as you say? And
well, I tell you what I do now, Richard, and it's probably completely garbage. You know, I come back and I usually make maybe a cup of tea. I might have a slice of toast, and then I will go to bed.
Yep.
That's it. I can't think of anything clever. I wish I could, but
funny enough, the advice we give to all night shift workers is when you return home at 6, 7 in the morning, treat that as that's the end of your working day. You're going into your evening.
Ooh.
So have a light supper, then go to bed, then wake up. It'll be a shorter sleep because sleeping during the day is difficult because you're fighting the light stimulus, you're fighting your natural hormones. Get up, have your breakfast, then go to work. So you basically reverse your day.
Yeah. When you travel and you've got extreme time differences, what I used to do if I was going to Los Angeles, of course, which is 11 and a half hours on a plane, which drives you nuts anyway, is just throw myself into their time. My watch was immediately set to, let's say, California time, and I would just be doing that. I wouldn't say, oh, it's only, it's 8 hours difference in London. I would be immediately, I'd go straight out to dinner, and that's the way that I try to get acclimatized.
And then just fit into the natural flow of the day.
And I slept very well. It's ironic, isn't it? I would sleep like a log.
Yeah, and again, I don't think for all these types of scenarios, you can say that this you'll talk to sleep experts and there'll be a prescribed best practice. But at the end of the day, it's what works for each individual, and it's about perhaps trying out different things and finding what works best for you, and then keeping to that.
I tell you what does work very, very well. And again, thank you for highlighting that it's not one size fits all. it's a very individual thing. I am obsessed with audiobooks. I always have an audiobook on the go. And at night, I put my little earphones in, but they fit behind my ears, so they're not in my ears. Otherwise, it's a bit painful on the pillow. And I set the sleep timer for 15 minutes or 30 minutes, and I listen to the book and I drift off. And that's been working for me. That's the best thing that I've found.
Oh, I like that.
That's great.
It worked really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect example. Neil, you mentioned sleep hygiene before. One of the things that really influences our sleep is the bedroom environment. So the optimum conditions for a human to sleep are the environment should be cool, dark, and quiet. And by cool, I'm talking between 16 and 18 degrees is the best temperature for us.
You were describing me, Richard. Cool, dark, and quiet. Quite flattered, actually.
Yeah. But, we're all different, Russ. Like you say, some people, can't go to sleep without the light on. Some need to have music on in the background. So
I know someone
what environment works best for you. Yeah.
I know someone that keeps boring books, or know of someone. He keeps this collection of books that are really dull. And he wakes up at 3 a.m. and goes and reads these books that just bore him back to sleep. True story.
Yeah.
He's quite well known. He's made Michael Mosley's done a lot of research.
Right.
And I'm a massive fan of Michael Mosley.
When I said before, one of my tricks is to go down and read the paper. Yeah. It's the paper from the day before that I've already read. So it's probably the same principle.
Yesterday's news. Exactly. Yeah. So you're not a million miles away. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Now, here's a good question, because I think a lot of people look at this old chestnut. This is from New York. It's Elizabeth Green. Coffee, doesn't that wreak havoc on sleep? I've never drunk it. Well, I drink a lot of coffee, but not at night normally. But it doesn't affect me. I'll be honest, it doesn't affect me. It really doesn't.
Well, caffeine, get caffeine-free coffee, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is. Caffeine's a stimulant.
Yeah.
So the general advice, and it's a good point to bring up, that is to stop drinking or stop consuming caffeinated products. That's chocolate as well. Or coffee, those types of things, sort of 4 to 6 hours before sleep. But again, comes down to individual things. Like you, Russ, coffee's one of my things, and I'm completely desensitized to it. My wife will drink 1 cup of coffee and she's on the ceiling. I can drink a cup of coffee at 10 o'clock at night and then go straight to sleep.
Absolutely.
I'm desensitized to it. So again, it's understanding.
I feel the D word rearing its head here of discipline. We have to discipline ourselves to do it, and we've all become a bit kind of do everything on the fly, haven't we? Grab a meal here, grab a sleep there, and it does take some thought, I suppose, to try these things, test these things for ourselves.
It does, and it all comes back to this mindset piece, doesn't it? Is we all have it within our grasp to live a little bit healthier, but it does take discipline, and for a lot of us, discipline equals hard work, and it's easier not to do that. But it's just recognizing that, and I guess what drives, if you've got to put a bit more discipline into, for example, your sleep routine and how you do things, you're only going to do that if you're motivated to do it. So programs like this are brilliant that you guys are doing this type of thing, because it increases that awareness out there. People then think, "Ooh, I'll try that. That sounds good," and it just builds that momentum, that motivation for people.
I love this comment, and I've never.
I do.
About it. It's from Dave Sleet, who's up in Fife as well at the moment. I used to sleep in a hammock when I worked night shifts, and that gave an extra sense deprivation. The sense of floating really helped.
I like a hammock.
Fab.
Oh, well, I don't know. It's interesting you say about Richard. You say about coffee and chocolate, because one of the things I've just run out actually is a thing called Pocket Rocket, which I get from the Algerian coffee shop in Soho, and it's a little thing of chocolate, with espresso in the middle. So you bite into it, so you got the chocolate and the espresso. Bloody marvelous! I'll be honest with you, it's terrific.
Yeah, well, one of the little tricks I was taught, and for me it works, it won't work for everyone, is if partway through the day you're feeling really knackered, and you just have almost a 10-20 minute nap, but that's really just eyes closed and just resting. You don't physically have to go to sleep, but you just will drift away. But before you do that, you have a strong espresso coffee. The caffeine takes about 20 minutes to hit the system once you consume it. So you get that 20-minute nap, and then the coffee impacts after 20 minutes. And that's like a super booster type trick during the day.
I love that. That's so good.
But that works really well for me. But I don't do it. I don't have. It's having the opportunity to do those types of things, though, isn't it? It's sometimes it's difficult at work.
Busy doing stuff, aren't we? Dave's sleep metabolic rhythm is also overlooked when sleep and nutrition are discussed. And
that just comes back to what Neil was referring to before about this natural order and having this natural rhythm through any 24-hour period that our bodies follow. And, we've got to go with that for optimum sort of sense of well-being. And the problem is modern life fights against it.
Exactly. That was exactly what I was going to say. I think we spend so much time fighting against the natural order when it's so much easier just to go with it, turn the boat downstream and go with the flow. So much easier. Paul says if you stop drinking, you'll discover a whole new sleep. People think alcohol helps. No, it doesn't. No, it does not. It might help you to get off to sleep in the first place. Yeah. But then it will certainly wake you up at 3 a.m, and you got anxiety and all those lovely things.
Yeah. Alcohol is really, really troublesome in terms of creating disrupted sleep. So it disrupts your natural sleep patterns. It's coming back to that disruption of your natural rhythms again. And again, it's another challenge for everybody listening. If you stop drinking in the evening for 5 days, and therefore you have 5 sleeps without alcohol beforehand, just see what you feel like after night 4.
And this comes down to motivation, because you will start to feel so much better. Then you'll be motivated to do it more. Alcohol's deadly for sleep.
But
you know something? This is so true from Sue's sleep. And I woke up, I'm in the middle of another novel, writing another novel. And last night in my sleep, I worked out the entirety of the plot, and I had all these extra twists. Then I woke up, couldn't remember a thing. I was furious. And she says, when I was working, I had a notebook by the bed. So anything playing on my mind, I'd write down. Now I'm retired, I read. Right. But notebook by the bed is a good thing.
I do that. I have a little notepad, little post-it by the bed. And if I wake up and think of anything, just write it straight down. And it's amazing how it just frees your mind not to worry about forgetting that. And then you relax and go back to sleep again.
There's that creative, because I find when I'm doing anything remotely creative, and I'm sure Professor Green would agree with this, your mind has to be in a relaxed state to be creative. That fighting, I can't remember the name, I can't remember that. But when you let go, one of the oldest psychological tricks in the book I know is if I'm trying to remember something, is just completely let it go. And then when you're least expecting it, it'll pop into your mind.
Yeah,
absolutely. And there's that delicious thing as you're going to sleep, that kind of, there's probably a name for it. I think the brain waves change and we start to produce alpha waves, and that's the creativity. And that's why I can be semi-awake, have brilliant ideas, but when I wake up, the beta waves keep back and I'm like, what was that again? It's a change in the brain. It's a change in the brain waves. I'm sure.
Neil,
what about CBD? Does that help?
Sorry, say that again. CBD, possibly for some people, others no.
Yeah.
Again, it's individual, isn't it? And sleep's a really odd part of our health and lifestyle, because so many things can go wrong with it, but how you put it right is usually quite individual. There are general things you can do, everybody can do, but in the main, it's what works for each individual.
Of course.
Much more than anything else. There's another one coming from Ramsey here saying keeping a recorder by the bed.
That's a good
there's
one.
Lots of different tricks people naturally have, which is really good. I think it's about a bit like the notepad idea. It's understanding what would work for you and then actually preparing for it.
Yes.
But you only have to put the notebook on the bedside table once, actually, don't you? And then it's there for...
Indeed. I love that from Paul. He dreamt prototype.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
I dreamt a board
and if you're
card game,
listening on
which is
Deluxe
now
Radio,
being
you won't be able to
prototyped.
see this. So
I dreamt a jingle once and made it afterwards.
Did you?
Brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. It was a crap jingle, but I dreamt it. But I do get some good ideas. And I find
this is interesting.
It's that delicious in betweeny stage. I don't remember the name for it, when the creativity just fires. It's just like, oh, that's an interesting way of looking at it. That makes so much sense. I've never thought of it that way before, and I'm determined that must be able to be accessed in waking state. I'm sure I'm going to ask some people about that.
Right, this is from Paul. He says, the sleep I had about 3 weeks after rehab ended changed my life. That's great and very honest.
Yeah.
Dave Sleet up in Scotland says sleep is the only state in which the body has time to heal and grow.
Very true.
Yeah, and that is actually the whole purpose of sleeping for a set period during any 24-hour period is it allows the body to recuperate and recover. And so if you don't have the appropriate amount of sleep, then you don't have that opportunity to do that. And that's particularly true with mental health. So we do know now that if you don't sleep enough or you sleep too much, that can have a negative impact on your cognitive functioning. Recent research has just been showing that there may be a link between poor sleep and Alzheimer's, those types of issues.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it.
Yeah. So it's, I know you guys are red hot on mental health. And what we have to look at, I think we talked about it before, is how our physical health affects our mental health.
Absolutely,
and sleep undoubtedly, poor sleep affects your mental well-being without a shadow of a doubt.
Look at this. This backs up earlier comments from Paul. Since no longer drinking alcohol, the only thing that upsets my sleep is illness. That is sensational. Richard, we must let you go. You've been brilliant. What a fabulous guest you are. You're always so welcome here at MRI.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Really interesting to listen to you.
Well, no, it's good fun talking with you guys. So we always get through so much and top tips. And tell you what, all the top tips that come through from the listeners have been absolutely fantastic.
Aren't they great?
Written a number of them.
Just terrific. They're just the most wonderful bunch. Richard, take care. No doubt we'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Okay.
All the best, Richard.
Bye-bye.
Well.
Bye-bye. What a lovely man. What a terrific guy.
Indeed, a couple of great guests today, Russ, I have to say.
Well, we do our best. I was standing here thinking, please God, let me get through the show.
You did good. Can I just share something?
You may share whatever you like. You have 2 minutes to share.
Have Monday off, please, boss. Because there was a little movie that I was involved in. This really connects to mental health. They might be great guests. It's a girl I know that suffered, and I too suffered from OCD. And it was a movie about a day in the life of someone with OCD. And I played a miserable boss that looks down patronisingly over his glasses. Why are you late?
Ooh.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's premiering on Monday, and I'm really excited to see it. But
wow.
Yeah, so they'd be great to have on as guests.
Does it have what's the name of it?
A Day in the Life with OCD.
Wow. Well done, you.
I'll forward you the deets.
I'm looking forward to the Oscars. You'll go up there. It's guaranteed.
I won't slap
anyone. Did you see, by the way, in the last minute, did you see what happened to Dave Chappelle at the Hollywood Bowl?
No.
Yeah, they went up and beat him up. Couldn't make it up yesterday. Hollywood Bowl's a huge auditorium in LA. And thanks to Will Smith opening that revolting door, which is completely unacceptable, they went up, and Dave Chappelle was doing his show, and they stormed the stage, and there was a fight.
Who's they? Who's they?
Some people, some punters. Who knows? Who knows who they were? But the images aren't nice. It's completely unacceptable. Really. I agree. Really, it's ridiculous, Comedy, stop it. And Paul Andrews is saying this. I actually wrote this morning. I said, "Oh, Will Smith, you're happy now." Yeah, Will Smith has well and truly broken the fourth wall forever. It's been foul. Neil, you are a fantastic fellow. And thank you so much for being part of the show. People absolutely love having you on. I get such great compliments about you.
Thank you. I enjoy it too. I'll see you Friday, everybody.
I'm really enjoying it massively.
Me too. Thank you.
We will be back, God willing. What's the day? Wednesday? On Friday at 12 o'clock. I'm just going to find a dark space and crawl into it now. Take care, everybody.
Good afternoon. Take care.
We'll see you on Friday. Bye, Longie.